All systems are go.
Oh, you know what? For this intro, I'm going to introduce this book that I've been reading.
Okay.
Yeah. My recommendation today...
Wait.
Should I do the intro and then the... Hey, everybody. I'm Cheyenne Adamson, and today I'm bringing you a great book review, which would be Deep Survival. Is that what it's called? Yep. Deep Survival. Who lives, who dies, and why. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. And the title pretty much sums it up. It goes into a lot of neuroscience and how the brain reacts in really stressful situations, and why certain people who have like a lot of experience out being an outdoorsman and even like Navy SEAL status might not survive, and like a 3-year-old would survive out in the forest overnight versus somebody who is really experienced and wouldn't. One story that struck me, which is really interesting, to give you a for instance, he talks about these snowmobilers. They were out on a jaunt, if you will. You guys haven't heard that word for a while, a jaunt. I can't remember what exactly they had to do, but they're coming back from their trip. And one of their fellow snowmobilers got left behind, and so part of the group had to split off, go back and give them gas or something. They got stuck, got them out, and there's a couple of snowmobilers that rode ahead. And I don't know if you guys have ever snowmobiled before, but it is so much fun. You can go fast, boy. They're sitting out there on the plain, and even that day, in this particular story, this true life scenario, there is an avalanche warning. And these two snowmobilers were sitting there, and he talks a lot about emotional bookmarkers that we all kind of make throughout our life. And if we have emotional bookmarkers, we're more likely to do something than we're likely not to. So for instance, they didn't have any emotional bookmarkers for avalanches, even though they had the warnings right there. Over the radio, they were experienced. It wasn't like they were just some rubes getting on snowmobile. So no, they were professionals. And some of them were EMTs. Like, they knew about this. They knew about this phenomena. So like, if you have an emotional bookmarker for excitement, like these guys did, they've gone up hills so many times. And there's a kind of a sport in snowmobiling. You go up the hill as far as you can until gravity takes you down, and then you come back down. And it's a rush. It's a lot of fun. But snow at like the 35-degree sweet spot is like prime conditions for avalanche. And so they're warned. But for some reason, they had this emotional bookmark. That's fun. That's amazing. Like, there's some survivability in it, like deep down within them. And they didn't have any bookmarks for avalanches. So they went up this hill, even though they knew that there was a great possibility for an avalanche. Sure enough, 9 feet of avalanche snow just comes crashing down. Both of them end up dying because snow like that is concrete. It's like cement. Once you're cemented in there, and even you have 6 guys digging you out, it's still probably not going to be enough time. The cold and the lack of oxygen and all that. But he talks a lot about these emotional bookmarkers and just the, like I said before, the neuroscience of what goes on in the mind when you're trying to survive some sort of situation that's like a fight or flight scenario. And man, if it isn't just an amazing book, highly recommend it. I really like it because it kind of puts me in those scenarios and gives me a little bit of a thought experiment of what I might like to do or what I might try to do. And also kind of like, you want to store away some of this information in your brain too, like just in case you do happen to get it, like you're rafting. Like he has one story, this Navy SEAL trained for days rafting down a river, flew out of the boat, actually resisted the guide to rescue him, and was laughing as he pushed the guide away because he had survived so much more. A SEAL, Rangers, like they're put through what they call Hell Week in all these basically almost unsurvivable situations. So they're like trained for this stuff. He pushes the guide away. He ends up dying because he just, for whatever reason, like he was trained, had all the experience, but he got sucked underneath and died from lack of oxygen. So it's like, it's really interesting, and it allows you to put yourself in these situations and go, hey, what might I do? Definitely your book to read. It's a page turner. It's only 200 plus pages. It's great. Highly recommend it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Phonics channel. I'm your host, Cheyenne Adamson, and today we're going to talk about how educators, teachers, tutors, and homeschoolers everywhere come to this channel for valuable teaching information and insights. Well, we're not going to talk about that. But we are going to talk about how to help your children form good friendships. And I have some advice for parents and homeschoolers, because this is a phenomenon, Brandon, that I have noticed. I don't want to grossly generalize homeschoolers and how they form friendships at all, because I think I've met some pretty astute and very well-adjusted kids who are even more better, if I could use that phrase, very eloquent of me. They were more better at conversations and the nuances of interacting with people. However, I have met some people and their homeschooled children who were very ill prepared for the social norms and the socialization of the world as well. And so I just got thinking, man, we should do a video on this to try to help these homeschooled kids form better friendships and help their parents actually help them form better friendships. But what I was going to say is that there does happen to be somewhat of a correlation where homeschooled kids don't get quite as much socialization as public school kids do. And I want to kind of maybe shine a little bit of a light on that and help these homeschooled kids out a little bit. If you homeschool your kids, you've probably found yourself thinking deeply about things parents take for granted if they send their kids to a public or private school. Friendship is a good example. A parent of kids at public school might wonder whether their kids are making friends. But a parent of homeschoolers has to wonder how they'll meet enough people to make friends in the first place. Thankfully, at least in this case, the solution is simpler than you'd expect. Because homeschooled kids make friends just like any other kid, obviously. They just need to be introduced. If you're a kid, it can be a little lonely to be homeschooled. What grade are you in if you're a 12-year-old reading Milton? What does it mean that you've never sat at a desk? How come all the homeschoolers on TV are in cults? Yeah, why is that? With all that in mind, it's crucial to introduce your child to friends. If there's a homeschooling co-op where you live, that's a great place to start. If not, think about starting your own. After all, one of the pluses of homeschooling is that you never need to get any forms made out in the triplicate. You can just start an informal homeschooling meetup and go from there. Church groups, volunteer groups, and afternoon classes, activities like art or yoga are also great options for homeschooling parents. And depending on your comfort level with traditional school, you might also consider enrolling your child in an after-school club or sport. The Homeschool League Defense Association has a comprehensive list of states that allow homeschooled kids to play interscholastic sports, and if it's allowed in your state, this can be a great way to introduce your child to new friends. Before you unleash your child on the world of traditional schools, though, it's a good idea to stop and consider what kinds of friends you want them to make. Traditional school can be a tough adjustment, even in small doses, and your child might not immediately take to it, or might take to it in the wrong way. And a good safeguard against this is to spend time at home studying philosophy together. Not necessarily so your child can recite the formulations of the categorical imperative, but simply so that they can understand how to think clearly and logically about situations that they're going to face in traditional school. This is a good preventative, but it's not infallible. If it becomes clear that they're not good for your child, then you have a problem that's separate from the sense of isolation, and probably more pressing. So the question is, what to do when your child's friends are bullies? All kids can get into poisonous friendships, and it's a risk that comes with friendships per se, and homeschoolers aren't exempt. As a parent, you need to face up to that. And if you see your child's friendships spending time with kids who are clearly not good for them, you can't ignore it. You've probably heard horror stories about kids getting into drugs via their friends, but in most cases the problem is much more mundane cruelty of bullying. But kids make friends with their bullies all the time. Although perhaps friends should be in scare quotes. James Lehman on Empowering Parents explains that kids sometimes make the calculated decision to befriend their bullies because it seems like a safer decision than going it alone. They might have to put up with torrents of cruelty, but at least they won't get shoved in the hall. Homeschooled kids can be susceptible to this kind of reasoning, especially when they're newly enrolled in sports or after-school clubs, because they're simply not used to the kind of social maneuvering that characterizes traditional school. And Lehman writes that if you notice your child getting bullied by friends, you should talk to them like an adult. Sit down with them and on the level, ask what they hope to get out of being friends with their bullies. Luckily, homeschooling tends to foster strong, open relationship between parents and kids, and your child might be more willing to confide in you than you'd expect. And if you've been talking about philosophy at home, this is a great opportunity for a teachable moment. Try to clear away the haze of social anxiety from your child's mind and talk to them in a clear, reasonable manner, and in clear, reasonable terms as well. Would they want everybody to treat each other the way their friends treat them? Are they really friends with their bullies, or are they just being used as a means to an end? These are questions that might not occur to your child when they're acting as a normal kid, but when they're acting as a student of philosophy, the answers should become clear. Focus on questions rooted in philosophy, and you'll have a better shot at convincing your child to back out of their toxic friendships. And if for this philosophy stuff, this seems out of left field, we've talked a little bit about the acronym P4C, and I'll link to that in the description below, but it's philosophy for children, and it's a great way to kind of get your child or get your student, if you're a teacher, up to speed and on this level of treating everybody like they're an individual, like they're a human being with love and empathy, and that they care for them, and with sans the bullying. So this is a great exercise that they can use in their classroom, or that you can use at home, and I'll link to that description down below so you guys can check that resource out. And if all else fails, feel free to take matters into your own hands by confronting the parents of said bullies. This is a great chance to let the parents with out-of-control children know exactly how ineffective their parenting has been. It's also a great opportunity to nip future bullying problems in the bud, especially if parents know that you'll confront them on this behavior. This does take some courage, I'll give you that, but it's worth it. Homeschooling might make it a little exasperating to find friends for your children. Still, you may find that the rewards outweigh the costs. A network of strong friendships that exist outside school is probably healthier for your children than a few friends they only see at recess and lunch. Homeschooling friendship, like homeschooling philosophy, is a big investment of time and energy, but it pays off. And for more resources on teaching philosophy to your kids, you can look at p4c.com, a rich collection of tools for philosophy for teachers and parents, and I'll link to that description again down below. And feel free to subscribe to our blog at yesphonics.com and to our YouTube channel. Really helps us grow and thrive, and gets our videos out there so more people can see them. You can also try our Mnemonic Phonic technique to teach the 72 sounds of English for free today. You can start right now. And that's it. That's it for the video. And throw me some comments. Type them down there. I'll reply. I'm pretty good at replying. And until next time, my fellow educators, stay classy, and I'll see you soon. Yeah!